about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, died with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, died with my own doubts. Be free.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jim here, Tutor UHQ, as always, welcoming you to our 28th live A-level economics revision blast. And today's subject is the balance of payments. And joining me, to present it, not joining with me to present it, because I'm just going to be sat here doing the clicker. It's John in the middle and Jeff on the right-hand side. Looking very smart today, Jeff. What's you dressed up especially for the occasion?
The 28th is a landmark event, isn't it? So I thought I'd dress up.
It is, and indeed, if we get 2 more done, we will have reached 30, according to the maths that I've just been doing here. So anyway, a warm welcome. Lots and lots of students joining us live. As always, if you're live, you get the chance to use the chat window that John and Jeff refer to, a chance for you to respond to the questions, give your ideas as we go, but under some time pressure because today's a very fast-paced session. However, if you're watching on catch-up or replay, you have the added option of pausing the video and maybe giving yourself a bit more time to consider the responses, either individually or perhaps in class. Hopefully you'll find those useful. John, do you want to give us a quick overview as to what this session is, and then we will rip straight into it?
Thanks, Jim. Welcome everybody live, and welcome everybody on replay. Yeah, we've got our usual mix of fast-paced activities aimed at balance of payments. So we're going to look at some of the components of balance of payments, some of the causes of surpluses and deficits, and then we'll do a little bit of analysis and evaluation towards the end. So
sounds good.
There we go. Yep.
All right, let's have some fun. Here we go.
Okay, well, thanks, John. I think we're going to kick off with some multiple choice questions. I think we've got maybe 5 or 6 questions. These are all, by the way, past paper questions, so a great chance for you to check and test your understanding. And here's the first question. Which of the following is a component of the current account of the balance of payments? A, B, C, or D, short-term hot money flows, sale of copyright, FDI, dividends from foreign investment. One of those, but only one, is a component of the current account. The other three are aspects of the balance payments available which go beyond the current account. So if you have a moment, type the letter into the chat window to see if we can get the right answer on this. So who's going to come up with the correct answer coming on this one? Which of the following is a component of the current account of the balance of payments? Okay, a few answers coming through. Let's double check. Most people seem to think it's either C or D. So let's have the answer, please, Jim. The answer is, in fact, D. A couple of people put C on this one. In fact, it's D. Short-term hot money flows are financial flows. They're on a financial account. Sale of copyright comes under the capital account. FDI, likewise, is a financial flow, not part of the current account. Whereas dividends from foreign investment, Mia, for example, and Jasmine got the right answer there, which is fantastic. They are income flows. So, for example, if you own shares in foreign companies, the dividend income that comes in is part of the current account. It counts as primary income. So a tough question to start with. Question 1, the answer there is D. Question 2, which of the following would appear as a credit item in the UK current account? Credit item is basically an inflow of income which would improve our current account position. They're the options: money sent by UK residents to their relatives overseas, the purchase by a French company of a UK insurance business, expenditure of Japanese tourists on holiday in Britain post-COVID, and expenditure by the British government in maintaining foreign embassies overseas. What do we think for question 2? Which one of these would appear as a credit item? In other words, an export essentially in the UK current account. Okay, let's double check the answers here. Can we have the answer, please, Jim? And the answer here is C. The answer is C. Japanese tourism. Japanese tourists coming to the UK accounts, of course, as a service export. So got that right, which is fantastic. Money sent by residents overseas, remittances, is a negative debit item. Purchase of a French company is a financial flow. And expenditure by tourism, so expenditure by the British government maintaining embassies counts as a secondary transfer, a negative debit item on the account. Well done to Daisy, to Buckle Up Barry and Sarah, who all got the answer right on that question. Here's question 3. The current account of the country's balance of payments is most likely to benefit from a depreciation of its currency when it's experiencing what? There are your 4 answers, A, B, C, and D. What do we think? When will the current account be most likely to benefit from a weakening or a depreciation of a currency? What do we think? Is it price elastic demand for imports? Is it full employment? Is it price inelastic demand for exports? Or is it high interest rates? Charlotte's come in with the answer A. A couple of other people agreeing with Charlotte on the chat window. Let's go with the answer, please, Jim. And the answer is indeed A. Excellent answers, well done. A key revision point here is, of course, that the current account will tend to improve if the Marshall-Lerner condition is applied, which is all to do, of course, with the price elasticity of demand for exports and the price elasticity of demand for imports. So price elasticity demand for imports, if the currency weakens, imports become more expensive, and that drives up the price of imports. Demand will fall significantly if there's a price elastic demand. Here's our 4th question coming up. A country is running a persistent trade deficit. What's the most likely effect of this? Countries running a persistent trade deficit. What's the most likely macroeconomic consequence, if you like, of that persistent trade deficit? And then you've got 4 options there, A, B, C, and D. What do we think? What do we think the answer is to this one? Persistent trade deficit, of course, means that the value of imports is greater than the value of exports. So what do we think? A couple of people thinking C, the appreciation of the exchange rate. I'll come back to that one in a second. Indeed, the answer seems to be mainly people going there for C. Let's go for the answer, Jim. The correct answer is D. Let me explain. If you're running a trade deficit, X minus M becomes negative. The value of exports is less than imports. Exports, of course, an injection into the circular flow. Imports are leakage into the circular flow. So it's going to be D. C, in fact, a trade deficit is likely to cause a depreciation in the exchange rate because people are buying imports and paying for it in pounds, let's say. So the supply of currency tends to go up in the market. Countries with persistent trade deficits nearly always have fairly weak exchange rates. And have we got one more multiple choice question just to test you on? And here it is. If the economy is at full employment, what might be the effect of an increase in the value of their country's exports? Good question, this one. Again, linking the balance of payments to other macroeconomic objectives. So if the economy is at full employment, what might be the effect of an increase in the value of exports? Think here in terms of the impact on aggregate demand, the output gap, and other variables. Karen's gone for B. Buckle Up Barry's gone for B. Charlotte's gone for B. I think you might be right. Let's check the answer, Jim. Good. Higher inflation. A significant increase in inflation. Ronald and Amanda both went for B as well. Could potentially lead to what's called demand pull inflation because export growth drives output above potential, leading to a positive output gap. Well done. Those 5 questions not easy. They're all to do with the balance of payments. Often they link the balance of payments to other key macro topics. Well, now let's hand over to John for a categorizing activity.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, they were tough, weren't they? They were tough. Well, thankfully, I think the next 60 seconds or so will be a little bit more straightforward for everybody. We've got a categorize activity here where I'm going to ask you to take the 8 aspects that are on the screen, the 8 pieces of information you've got on the screen, and I want you to categorize them into one of 2 ways: balance of trading goods and balance of trading services. Basically, what we're doing is trying to separate them between goods and services, which I think will be fairly straightforward for you. So when the clock starts in a second or 2, I want you to type into the chat window the numbers of those that you consider to be trade in goods, those that are impact upon the balance of trade in goods. So the numbers will just need to be those that balance in that affect the balance of trade in goods. Let's start our clock then, please, Jim, if we may. 60 seconds. Basically, this is a speed test for you. How quickly can you read the suggestions on screen, and how quickly can you then type them in to the chat window? So we're looking in the chat window for you to tell me any that are going to impact upon the balance of trade in goods. Let's see who's got any suggestions for us. Charlotte's the first one to come in with some suggestions. Thank you, Charlotte. So we're looking at those that are going to impact upon the balance of trade in goods. Jasmine's come in now as well. Thank you, Jasmine. A few seconds left to go. Brilliant. Seeing some fantastic answers now. Lots of people joining in. Karen, Sarah, thank you for your suggestions. So which of them are balance of trading goods and which of them affect the balance of trading services? Let's have a look at the answers then, please, Jim. Quick look on our screen. It's easier to think about the ones that are affecting the balance of trade in services in terms of numbers. And that's one of the areas where students sometimes forget and find it more tricky to find examples of services. So we've got passengers in the on the Eurostar if they're going from the UK to mainland Europe, US tourists on the London sightseeing tour, and the other 6, which were quite rightly identified by loads of people on the chat. Amanda and Buckle Up Barry came in with those ones as well. Quick reminder to you, of course, for the UK, balance of trade in goods tends to be a deficit, whilst a balance of trade in services tends to be a surplus. Usually the deficit is much greater than the surplus there. And hopefully what you're going to find with those examples on screen is some possible real applicable examples that you might use if you're going to be taking some assessments over the next few weeks. Right, okay, over to Jeff for the bubble quiz next.
Oh, thanks, John. Yeah, interestingly, last year in 2019, the UK ran its the first surplus service of more than £100 billion. A staggeringly high surplus in services. Of course, in 2020, the collapse of tourism, transport, etc., there's obviously going to be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of up and down in the trade data in the next year or two. It'll take a couple of years for this data to settle down and recover. That was a great exercise, John. You gave people 60 seconds. I would have given people a minute, quite honestly, but that's just how generous I am. We've got a couple of bubble quizzes. People who join us regularly love the bubble quiz. Stella loves the bubble quiz. Tutor loves the bubble quiz. We all love a good bubble quiz. I'm going to give you a question, and there'll be 4 answers. You have to decide how many of the answers are correct. Could be 1, could be 2, 3, or 4, could be none of them. And just post an answer in chat. If you're on the replay of this, pause the button. Here's the first question coming up. If you're on replay, just pause the video and then have a go. So we've got 2 bubble quizzes for you. Here we go. Which of these is the likely outcome if our central bank, the Bank of England, decides to raise interest rates? Assuming the central bank, the Monetary Policy Committee, decides that the time is right to start raising the base rate of interest. Which of these is the likely outcome if the central bank raises interest rates? And we're linking today monetary policy a little bit with the balance of payments. So type the ones that you think are correct. A, B, C, D, or any combination thereof. What do we think in terms of that? Jasmine's gone for A and D. It's quite interesting. A rise in interest rates. What's the likely impact on one or more of those kind of macroeconomic objectives? What do we think here? A few more seconds as answers come flowing in. A couple of people saying A, people saying D, acceleration in the rate of inflation. This is interesting. I'll go through the answers with you. Ronald's gone for C and D. Ronald's gone for D. A rise in interest rates. Okay, Jim, I think the time is right to reveal the answers. It's only C. Let me take you through this. The exchange rate will appreciate. You may have come across the concept of hot money. Hot money is short-term financial flows that move around the world economy looking for the best rate of interest. And typically, if a central bank raises interest rates, that tends to attract hot money into the economy, which, other things being the same, causes the exchange rate to appreciate. So C is right, therefore A is wrong. The rate of inflation will tend to slow down because, of course, higher interest rates represents a deflationary monetary policy or a contractionary monetary policy. But B is wrong because it doesn't necessarily mean inflation will become negative. There is a risk of deflation. Of course, the Bank of England probably wouldn't be raising interest rates if they felt there was a risk of deflation. And inflation, so B is probably incorrect, and D is wrong. In fact, if anything, higher interest rates will dampen down the inflationary pressures. Let's have a go at another bubble quiz. We've got 2 of them. Now, this is specifically on the balance of payments. So here it comes. Which of these are components of the financial account of the balance of payments? Not the current account, but the financial account. So at A-level, you need to know both the current account and the financial account. It's one of those things in year 13, you need to have a slightly more detailed understanding of the balance of payments. So which of those? Net balance of portfolio investment flows, changes to the value of reserves of gold and foreign currency, the balance of banking flows, we talked about hot money flows a few seconds ago, and the net balance of FDI. Which of these, A, B, C, D, do you think are correct? Some good answers coming through. We're looking for correct answers here. Yasmin's gone for A and D. She thinks they're both in the financial account. Didier's gone for D, A, B, and D. Some other answers coming through. Ronald's gone for A, B, and D as well. Some good answers. Thank you for posting in the chat window. Let's have the answer, please, Jim. In fact, all of them appear on the financial account. So portfolio investment is things like foreign investors buying stocks and shares, property and bonds. That's a financial flow. Changes to the value of reserves. Yes, they do appear on the financial account of the balance of payments. So too banking flows. They're also called hot money flows, and the net balance of FDI. So those are, in fact, the big items on the financial account, which takes you away from trade in goods and services and it's a key one to understand. So well done on that bubble quiz. You did tremendously well. And I think we're going to pass over to John for the next activity.
Thank you, Jeff. We've got a connection wall for everybody. Okay. Requires you to have a little bit more of a think, this one, and perhaps to type a little bit more into the chat window if you are participating live. On the wall, you've got 12 key phrases, and they can be categorized into three groups of 4. So I want you to have a little bit of thinking, a little bit of time here needed for you to have a read through. So again, if you're watching on replay, you may want to pause the video at this point and give yourself a bit more time to have a read through. Have a look at those 12 items then, those 12 key phrases, and can you have a think about what potential categories may come out of these 4. I'll give you some clues in a second or two if we don't get any particular fast responses. My first clue will be relating to deficits, and my second clue relating to surpluses, if that helps at all. So you're going to connect 4 items together, and we've got 3 different categories in total. Booklet Barry suggests it's a bit like Connect 4. Yes, we're not trying to connect 4 in a row, though. They may not be in a row. They may be anywhere on screen. So let's see if we get any ideas and suggestions. A little bit more thought required, a little bit more reading. I appreciate that as well. Have a think. Anything coming to anybody here? Let's have a look on our live on our chat window, see if anything's coming through. No. Didier's coming with something, and Didier suggesting all reasons for low exports, low product quality, higher inflation, recession major trading partners. Yes, could be to do with low exports. Any other suggestions? Any other thoughts? A little bit more required for you to type in here. Charlotte's having a good think by the looks of things. That's her suggestion on screen. Let's have a look at the first one, Jim. Let's have a look at the first category, and then we might be able to isolate the other 2 categories a little bit more straightforwardly. First one is just straightforward causes of short-term current account deficits. So what could be causing us to have a current account deficit? Higher inflation, domestic inflation rates compared to trading partners will lead to higher prices and therefore less competitiveness. If major trading partners are having a recession, then they're less likely to buy our imported goods or our exported goods imported to them. Poor quality products, appreciating currency, again, leading to a lack of competitiveness. Do we have any other suggestions for a second or a third category before we go on to see them, for example? Didier, no, you weren't far off at all, were you? Let's see if you can come up with something else. Oh, poor Daisy with her internet connection. Let's have a look at the second connection then, Jim, and hopefully we'll be able to identify the third. Right, this time structural causes of current account deficits. Little tip for you: structural causes will come up later on in this revision blast as well. So, what could be causing that structural problems that we might have, where we've got long-term supply side weaknesses rather than just something that might be to do with the change in GDP or a change in currency. So low levels of national savings will mean that consumers are more likely to be purchasing more, and certainly in the UK that's likely to be more imports. Low productivity. So we are not producing as many goods domestically and therefore not able to sell as many abroad, causing that long-term structural current account deficit. And then an insufficient capital investment, again, leading to low levels of competitiveness. Right, we have one more to go. We have one more category. I'm just waiting on the chat window to see if we can identify that third one. I don't think we've got anybody there for this one. So let's have a quick look. That third one then, Jim, is causes of current account surpluses. So anything that could mean that our current account has, we are exporting more in terms of a value compared to import. So high world commodity prices, if you were a country that exported high levels of commodities, metals, golds, copper, agricultural products like wheat, and those commodity prices were high, that would probably lead to a current account surplus. A change in your currency, Jeff was talking about that during the bubble quiz as well, that can impact upon your current account surplus. High levels of domestic savings, less inclination to purchase imported goods, and low domestic inflation, again, leading to increased levels of competitiveness. Thank you for that. Thanks for participating. Those of you who had a go, that was a little bit tough. I'll hand over to Jeff for an on-balance activity.
Yeah, thanks, John. Just a quick one on the previous exercise. Very important to understand the distinction between a cyclical cause and a structural cause. So some countries have trade deficits that go up and down with the economic cycle. Some countries have trade deficits which are essentially the result of longer-term structural factors, oftentimes, for example, supply side factors. And also the other thing to bear in mind from that exercise that John took you through, there are many countries, of course, that run big surpluses on their balance of payments and trade accounts. It's not just a deficit story. There are big trade imbalances in the world economy to think about. This is a very quick exercise. We're just going to have a look at something called on balance, which is essentially a quick exercise to help us practice evaluation skills. We're just going to take one example. And again, if you have a moment, type into chat. So if you're on replay, press the pause button. Give one impact of increasing income taxes to help reduce a current account deficit. So think about a government that decides that they're running a big trade deficit and they decide to increase income tax. Can somebody give me one impact of increasing income taxes as a strategy, as a policy designed to improve the trade deficit? Didier has got a tremendous answer. Increased income taxes leads to lower disposable incomes, causes lower consumption, and therefore consumers are less likely to buy imports, improving the balance of trade. I mean, that is a terrific answer, because what you've done there, Didier, is you've built in a lovely chain of reasoning. And Karen says the impact would make households import less. Demand for imports falls because of less disposable income. Terrific. Let's put in our suggested answer. So one impact can be exactly, essentially, as Didier and Karen talks about. And key thing there, actually, use the word real disposable income. Just gives that little extra detail to the answer, causes a fall in demand for imports, and ceteris paribus, other things remaining the same, a fall in the deficit. Terrific answers, lovely chains of reasoning from everybody. And on balance, well, let's think of on the other side. Can you alert me to one problem, one downside of increasing income taxes to help reduce a current account deficit? We've built our analysis. However, on balance, in theory, income taxes can help reduce the current account deficit. Didier comes in. However, higher taxes can lead to lower aggregate demand, a fall in wages and living standards, particularly for workers. Great point. So you can challenge the idea that income taxes going up necessarily improves the trade balance. Terrific point. Can we throw our answer in, Jim? And here it comes. Here's the balancing argument. Increasing income taxes cuts real disposable incomes. This can have an impact on living standards, particularly as people's purchasing power falls. Great point. I would add in that if you cut income and consumption falls, then businesses may invest less because they're making less profits. And of course, if investment goes down, that could be a longer term problem for the current account position. Crucial point here, everybody, is be able to analyze the impact of something and then evaluate. Of course, that's the key to getting top marks in your assessment. So well done on that one. Didier in particular, terrific chain of reasoning, really helped the answer there. I think we've got two small activities to finish with. So over to John for the scanner.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, two very quick ones. Some fantastic answers there, Jeff, weren't there? Some really good ones. If you've not seen our suitcase scanner before, basically there is a diagram hidden within our suitcase, and in a second or two we're going to put our scanner over the top of it, and you're going to see the diagram bit by bit by bit. The scanner will go across the diagram and then return, but just bear in mind that you don't see the diagram in its totality at any one stage. So you've got to piece things together in your mind. As always with these diagrams, what we're trying to get you to think about is, what is the diagram showing? Remember, in economics, our diagrams are meant to be painting a picture. So it's not just what is on the axes or on the actual labeling of any kind of line that might be on the graph. What is it actually trying to show us? So bear that in mind, and obviously bear in mind the topic of today, balance of payments. So we're going to start our scanner now. It's going to flash across our suitcase. Watch carefully. Take in as much of the information as you can. It'll go back now. Take in as much information as you can as it goes across. Then I would like to know from anybody here, what was that diagram showing me? So what is the chat window going to tell me now? What was that diagram showing me? There were little bits. There was a title in there. There were labels on our lines. We had a positive and a negative. Karen's the first one in. Karen's gone with the current account deficit. Not far off my full answer, Karen, if you can come up with something else. Charlotte's come up with something, and so has Louis. Louis has come up with structural current account deficit. I think Louis hopefully was listening to a few things that have been said today. Let's reveal the answer, please, Jim, because I think Louis was there first. Indeed.
That's a great answer.
Do have a structural trade deficit. So our net exports of goods and services is always in negative over a period of time. So we've got that structural trade deficit. Thank you to those who took part in that. One activity left to go, which is our usual end to these revision blasts for economics. We have our higher or lower activity.
Can I join in on this one, John? Can I have a go?
Please do, Jeff. And I'm assuming Jim's still there with us as well.
I'm
so
here.
We'll have a go. We'll try and combat or have a go against those students who are watching live, who are usually fantastic at this. So we're looking at countries in terms of their current account balance as a percentage of GDP. Will the next country be higher or low? So let's start off with the big one, China, as it were, one of the biggest economies in the world. So their current account balance, I don't know whether you thought that might have been a higher or lower number in itself, is 1.0%. So our next country then is Japan. Ooh. So the question for everybody is would Japan's current account balance be higher or lower than China?
Okay, well, I'll have a quick go. This is the current account, not the trade balance, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
China's current account surplus has come down substantially over the years. A lot of people think China has a much bigger current account surplus than it actually does.
Okay.
So my instinct is to say that Japan is now actually running a current account deficit. So I would go lower than China, but I need to see what other people think.
Okay, Jim, what do you think? I mean,
my instinct as an economics expert is that Japan's current account balance is still positive, probably a little bit higher than China.
Oh, okay. Well, a difference of opinion. And as the chat window, there is a great difference of opinion. Although I'd say probably on balance, more people are going with low. Let's have a look, Jim. There you go. It is a higher number, significantly higher than compared to China. So their exports of their manufactured goods have been picking up. Remember, this is 2019 rather than last year, where things were.
The thing about Japan is they've got a very competitive exchange rate. The yen has come down, part of Abenomics.
Indeed. What about the Germans then? What about the German economy, and how about their current account balance? So it's 1-0 to Jim at the moment here at Tutor Head Office. What do you think this time, Jim? We'll go with you first.
Germany's got to be right at the top, hasn't it? I mean, it's persistently high, so I'll go higher than 3.6.
Okay. You're confident it's higher than
absolutely certain it is. Yeah.
What do you think then, Jeff?
I mean, Germany must have a huge structural trade surplus, big world-class businesses, manufacturing businesses.
Yeah, Lewis in the chat's given us the number, actually, so go higher, Jeff, go higher.
Yeah. Go higher.
Yeah. Everybody thinking the chat window is going higher. Let's have a look, Jim. It is indeed significantly higher, as you quite rightly pointed out, yes.
That's a great stat to have for exams. If you have a country where you can pick out a country with Germany's current account surplus is 7 times bigger than China's as a share of GDP.
Yeah. Yes, and I think it's one of the highest in the world as well. And when I was researching these ones, let's have a look at the next country, Jim. Ooh. Ireland. Here's an interesting one for you. Now we know the Irish economy itself has had a big, I want to say resurgence, but it's grown largely over the last decade or so. So what do we think about there?
As a percentage of GDP as well, isn't it? So it's not not in absolute terms.
No.
But Germany's so high. A law of averages or odds suggests it's going to be lower, isn't it? Surely, even if it is positive, lower. I'll go lower.
Yeah. Okay. The fact that Germany is so high, we would suspect that Ireland's going to be lower. Would you agree, Jeff, or are you going to?
Yeah, in part, of course, a lot of inward investment into Ireland from American and Canadian companies. Of course, the profits then leave Ireland, go back to the States and things, which is a net negative for the current account. I would think Ireland has a current account surplus, but half of that of Germany. So I'll go low.
Okay, well, let's have a look, Jim. Actually, Jeff, it has a deficit. Clearly, it is lower than the German economy, but no, and I think for the reasons you just pointed out there, Jeff, that how much of it does go back to the home nations, as it were, in terms of. Our final.
That should make the last one easy, shouldn't it? In theory. Oh, there
we go. In theory, but we've left the best to last, haven't we? Yes, in practice. Well, UK, yes, in theory, one thing.
I should know the answer to this, John, because I've given enough talks on the UK economy.
Okay.
I think our current account deficit last year was of the order of about 3.5%, 4% of GDP. 2019, about 4.1%. I don't know the answer. It must be better than Ireland in the sense that the deficit is low. I'll go minus 4%.
Okay, so if what we're saying is, even if it's a deficit, if it's a lower number than Ireland, then it must be
it's a higher kind of.
Yeah. Do you think Jeff's right then, Jim?
Yeah, he's probably right. I mean, you're right. He's always doing talks on the UK economy. If he says it's minus 4.0, it must be. But therefore, minus 4.0 will be higher, won't it, than Ireland? So yes, I'll go with that.
It would be. And I think most people on the chat window are going something similar. So let's have a look. And do you know what, Jeff? Your number was spot on. Well done to you. So higher. Awesome. But I do think that was 3-2 to Jim overall there.
I think it was 3-0 actually, wasn't it?
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
Superb stuff. Really enjoyed that.
To everybody.
Yeah, well done, John. I love those higher lower activities as a close to so many of our live blasts. It gives us a chance to pick the brains of the live student audience as well. Great stuff. Really enjoyed that. Lots of great exam tips as well in there. Yeah. So if you're watching live, and we never take this for granted, and you found the session useful, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. And that makes us happy, of course, but also it helps the YouTube algorithm suggest this content and this type of content to other A-level economics students, both right now and the coming weeks, but also in the months and years ahead. So that would be much appreciated. And same thing too, if you're watching on Catch Up or Replay, you can also give the thumbs up to us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We've got lots more sessions coming up over the course of this term. If you're a Year 12 student, we're planning a big program of support like this once we get back in September as well. So well worth subscribing to the channel to find out what's coming up and spread the word, share the link and the links with your mates. If you want to download all the slides, go to tutd.net/live and use the filter there, A-level economics, and you'll be able to download all 28 PowerPoint decks if you wish. Lots of great revision materials in there, and of course lots of other subjects as well. So if you're doing A-level law, psychology, business, geography, sociology, politics, you'll find loads and loads of sessions there as well. Fantastic. Great to have you with us live. Many thanks as always to John for these amazing activity templates and content, and Jeff as well. And we'll hopefully see you next week. We've got 2 sessions next week, so hopefully all your revision, your assessments are going well. We'll see you later. Thanks very much.
Cheers,
Bye, everybody.